I saw Bret Michaels from Poison and Stephen Pearcy from Rat on Friday, September 12th at The Lights in West Fargo, North Dakota. And through Stevie Rachelle from Tuff, who got me hooked up with Bret's guitar player Pete Evick, I got to watch the show from the side of the stage, and I got to meet Bret after the show. So I wanted to take some time to tell you about the night, the concert, and why Bret Michaels is the anti-Sebastian Bach.
The hair metal guru from Warren to Crew. The hair metal guru, never forget Charlie too.
Welcome to the Hair Metal Guru. My name is Anthony. They call me the Guru, and holy shit, it's dark in here. Okay, so I had a blast at the Bret Michaels and Stephen Pearcy show. And so I wanted to tell you a little bit about that night and the experience. And part of this is to thank Stevie Rachelle for the hookup, to thank Pete Evick for all of his graciousness and going above and beyond what I ever expected that night and getting us to, hang out on basically on stage during the show and to meet Bret afterwards. So I wanted to tell you a little bit about how this all came together. So it was one of my best friends, Chantel. Her and her husband, Brent, we all went to college together. So it's her 50th birthday, actually today, Monday, September 15th. So we are obviously all huge Bret Michaels fans of Rat. So we were all going to go to this show. So Stevie, who, I would say I consider a friend now. He and I chat on Facebook. I've done videos about Tuff. He's done multiple Metal Sludge stories about my interviews and things like that. So he and I chat. So anyway, we were chatting one day and he had gone to see Stephen Pearcy. And I was like, well, I'm actually going to see him next Friday opening up for Bret Michaels. And I didn't ask for anything, but he was like, hey, I'm going to reach out and see if I can pull some strings and get you hooked up. And I didn't, I was like, wow. And I said, well, that's awesome. If nothing happens, don't worry. I said, just the fact that you would think to do that for me is amazing. So a few days later, he's like, hey, he texts me Pete Evick's number and he tells me to get a hold of him. And so I just want to lay that out there that Stevie Rachelle is, besides fronting Tuff and doing Metal Sludge, has just been super awesome to me. So thank you to Stevie Rachelle. So that night, so I am texting a little bit back and forth with Pete Evick, and he tells me, okay, text me when you get to the show. And so I'm hanging out at the show, text him. He sends somebody to go find me. And me and Brent Chantel, we go over to talk to Pete. He's like, hey, here's where you're going to watch the show, which is right on the side of the stage. We were the only fans up there. All right, I got hooked up with Pete Evick, Bret Michaels' guitar player. And that was through Stevie Rachelle from Tuff. Thank you for getting me hooked up with him. So now my friends, Brent and Chantel, it is Chantel's 50th birthday on the 15th, and she is a major Bret Michaels and Poison fan. But anyway, Pete Evick got us on stage for Bret Michaels. He should be out here in a couple minutes. I'll try to get some live footage. But holy shit! The Guru is on stage with Bret Michaels. And then he's like, and you're going to meet Bret after the show. And I'm like, holy fuck. I thought, oh, well, maybe we'll get to meet some of the guys in the band. Anyway, we get to meet Bret. So Pete Evick, he was so fucking nice. And I was like, as we're talking, I'm like, well, I'll just fucking throw it out there. I'm like, hey, if you've ever, heard of my channel, I'd love to have you on. And he's like, yeah, man. He goes, I've heard of you. And he goes, I've watched some of your stuff. And, I've been thinking, when I think about, what are some places that I wouldn't mind being on. He goes, anyway, maybe he was just saying that to be nice, but whatever. I appreciated it. So I'm going to ask him about coming on the channel. he's been with Bret Michaels for like 20 years. So anyway, I'm not going to go into a bunch of detail about the Stephen Pearcy show. It was not a Stephen Pearcy Warren DeMartini show. But I will say this, Stephen's band is awesome, and he sounded better than I've seen him or Rat a ton of times. And I think, he's got some smoking hot girlfriend, and I think he's kind of living the clean life now. So he sounded great. The Stephen Pearcy show was awesome. So I'll just leave that at that. Bret Michaels, and I'm not gonna, go into every little detail. I got the set list that was on the stage. So I will tell you after the intro, here's the set list. They played Talk Dirty to Me.
Bret Michaels, song number 1, Talk Dirty to Me. Holy shit.
Ride the Wind.
Somebody had a good idea. I got a hair on the Guru shirt, but I need to get Find Me on YouTube on that, and maybe the address. And maybe I should put my PayPal on there too, if you want to donate.
Look What the Cat Dragged In.
Look What the Cat Dragged In, baby. Title track. Holy shit. It sounds badass. And I'm on stage. What the fuck?
Your Mama Don't Dance. Okay, I'll be honest, not my favorite song, but whatever. Something to Believe In.
Hey, it's time for the first pussy ballad of the night. Something to Believe In. And he dedicates this shit to the veterans. He's a big veteran supporter. That's kick-ass. And I love this song. So here you go. And there's my buddy Brent. I'm on stage! Ah!
And Bret always, talks about his appreciation for veterans. I think his dad was a Vietnam vet, and his name is on the Vietnam Wall in Washington, D.C. So he always gives his support for veterans. I'm an Iraq and Kosovo vet. I was in the military for 22 years. So I always appreciate that. After Something to Believe In, there was Fallen Angel.
Just Fallen Angel. Now we just need Susie Hatton out there in a bikini. That would kind of add to the whole thing.
On Skinny Bop, they did a drum solo. The drummer was great. Every Rose Has Its Thorn.
The ultimate pussy ballad. And maybe the greatest ballad of all time. Every rose has its thorn. I hope you're ready to cry like a little bitch. I know I will.
The Leonard Skinner covers Sweet Home Alabama, and they finished with Nothing But a Good Time. So what was it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 songs and a cover.
Yeah, it is nothing but a good time. Here at Bret Michaels at the Light, West Fargo, North Dakota. Thank you so much to Pete Evick from the Bret Michaels Band, and especially to Stevie Rachelle from Tuff for getting a hold of me and hooking me up. Unfucking believable. Hey, if wanting the good life is such a crime, just blow me away, man. Just blow me away.
One of them was a cover. So I wasn't expecting a big, because it was kind of a double bill. Stephen probably got right around the same amount of time. I want to say this. Bret Michaels never phones in a concert. I have never seen him come out with anything less than unbridled energy. And that's the closest I've ever seen a Bret Michaels or a Poison show. And he legitimately looks like he's having fun. The band looks like they're having fun. And he looks like he hasn't aged, and he gets the crowd in the palm of his hand. That's why, I said, I didn't see the stadium tour with Def Leppard and Motley Crue. But I have seen Poison. I've seen Poison probably 20 times. I have seen all of Poison, Motley Crue, and Def Leppard over the last 10, 15 years. And Poison or Bret Michaels puts on by far the best performance. By far has the crowd going more nuts than any of those other bands. And that's not to shit on Def Leppard, or, well, okay, I have kind of shit on Motley Crue live. This isn't a Motley Crue video, and I don't mean to use this time to shit on Motley Crue. But Poison, and especially Bret, just, you know, you wouldn't know that the dude is 60 years old. It still seems like it's fucking 1988 on the Open Up and Say Ah tour. He's out there slapping five. He's smiling. He's doing shit with the band and making faces with them. It's unbelievable. You would think playing these same songs night after night that you would even, you know, sometimes be like, okay, here we go, you know, but I have never seen that. And, you know, being on stage and being up close, it was amazing. I know that I have said at times over the course of this channel, I'd probably come down a little bit on Bret Michaels because I wish he did more stuff with Poison. So I'm going to address that. I interviewed Ricky Rocket, and you could tell that Ricky is disappointed that Poison doesn't do more stuff. He said, I wish we toured every summer. There was a period in the I think it was late 90s to early 2000s, or maybe even, you know, the 2000, mid 2005, whatever, where Poison was on the road like every summer. In Fargo, North Dakota, they played like the Red River Valley Fairgrounds. I think it was like 4 years in a row, or 4 out of 5 years. And one year they fucking sold the place out of beer. Like that had never happened before. Anyway, now most of Bret's time is spent solo. So because I love Poison and I appreciate and respect so much CC DeVille and Bobby Dahl and Ricky Rocket, yes, I do wish Bret Michaels would spend a little bit more of his attention and time on Poison. That being said, I'm a capitalist, and I'm, you know, like when you've hung out with guys for so many years, you know, I'm sure that he likes being able to run the show and likes being able to say, this is what's happening, and I call all the shots, you know. And let's be honest, I mean, I'm sure he pays his band phenomenally well. But during a Bret Michaels live tour, he probably makes a lot more money than he does on a Poison tour where he has to split things evenly. And, you know, it's so I'm trying to say this without coming, like, it's not his responsibility to say, okay, I gotta go out of my way and make less so the other guys can make more. Now, do I wish that was the case? Yes. But it is his choice. He can do what he wants. It's his life. And he is going to do Poison next year. And it's not like he doesn't do Poison-related things. They just did the stadium tour a couple of years ago. So I want to acknowledge that I have said I wish Bret would do more Poison stuff. I also want to acknowledge it is completely his right to run his life the way he wants to. It's no different than, if, like on my YouTube channel, if somebody was like, hey, you should have Jeremy on all the time, and I love Jeremy, and Jeremy's welcome on anytime. But if somebody said, look, I think that Jeremy is a huge, or whoever, Brian or Ryan or anybody, I think that they are a huge reason you are successful. You owe them to come on the channel. Well, I get where, I understand that. I can get that. But I also know that as my own entity, I can run the channel however I want. So anyway, I feel like I'm beating a dead horse there, but I just want to make sure that people understand my thoughts and to understand that I have never been anti-Bret Michaels or anti-anything like that. I have said that I wish he did more Poison stuff, and I still hold to that, and I'm sure he knows that. I'm sure he understands that given the choice between, hey, just Bret Michaels solo or Bret Michaels with Poison, the band he came to fame with, he probably knows that more people would want that to happen with Poison. But if he makes more money doing it on his own, he has every right to do what he can to create the best financial situation for him and his family. Anyway, the show was fucking amazing. He sounded great. The band sounded great. And now I want to get into meeting him after the show. And before anybody says, well, obviously he's going to be nice to you because, whatever, you're a part of the media. He probably didn't know who I was. I doubt that he's heard of the Hair Metal Guru or Hair Metal Mansion on Rock 101 KLOL. So I want to say this. He was so fucking nice to me. But he was so fucking nice to everyone. There was a guy and a girl a couple spots ahead of me in the line to meet him. And I'm like, oh, fuck, this guy is drunk. And I'm wondering, because I'm watching the people ahead of me go up and talk to him. It's like you stand by a table, you wait in line, and when the person in front of you gets done, you give somebody your phone. That person's going to take your picture. I'll put the picture in here. And you give that person your phone. You go up and you stand by Bret. You get to talk to him for a little bit. I probably talked to him for a minute and a half or something. But anyway, I'm thinking, even Bret Michaels is going to act a little perturbed that this guy is drunk. Fuck no. He pulls in this guy, gives him a hug, gives the girl a hug. They're like, oh, can you sign our shirts? Like kind of a drunk thing to do because of He does it. He talks to him. He smiles. He looks at them and listens. And I'm like, this guy's kind of drunk and annoying. I don't know if I could pretend to be that way. Bret Michaels, even if he's pretending, he did it. I didn't know if he was pretending. He just looked genuinely excited and happy to talk to them. And then my friends Brent and Chantel, it's Chantel's 50th birthday, and her husband Brent, they're two of my best friends. And, Brent's had a few drinks, and he goes up, he hugs them. Brent's like, I could hear him saying like, yeah, my uncle got me the Look What the Cat Dragged In cassette. And Bret Michaels is like, fucking A, and he's like, then Brent's like, yeah, and then he got me to open up and say, and Bret Michaels asks if his uncle's still around and looks genuinely interested in hearing what he has to say. And, I'm like, holy shit. Like, it does not seem like an act. The dude's got to be around 60. I'm 52. He's probably 8'10". I could look it up. But he's, in his 60s. And he still is like so fucking nice and genuine. And I'll say this. Every time I hear about people interacting with him, they all say the same shit. That he is so fucking friendly. So anyway, now I feel like I'm getting all, because it was amazing. So then my turn comes up and I got this plan, you know, because I'm like, you know, you get to talk to him a little bit. So I'm like, number one, I wanted to acknowledge his respect for veterans. And I'll be honest, I wanted to tell him I'm a veteran, you know, because I thought that might give me more of an opportunity to spend some time with him. So I go up to him, you know, because I wanted to tell him what I do now, this channel. I wanted to tell him that I host a radio show, Hair Metal Mansion, on Rock 101 KLOL. I was not going to ask him, hey, would you come on my channel? I'm like, fuck, how many times does he probably get asked? I'm like, I'm not going to ask him that. But I just want him to know that that's what I'm doing. So I go, pulls me in, gives me the big fucking bro hug. And I said, hey, Bret, I said, I just wanted to say that it means a lot how much you respect and always give credit to veterans during your shows. I am an Iraq and Kosovo vet. And so I just want you to, and he just like, right then, it's like he's drawn in and he's like, man, thank you so much for your service and for what you've done for this country and how much you've sacrificed. And I'm like, I said, thank you. Seriously, I appreciate that. And then I said, so I was in the military for 22 years and I taught high school English for 12 years. But now I am making a go of it in music. I said, I run a YouTube channel. I host a radio show on Rock 101 KLOL. And I said, in fact, I just interviewed Ricky about 6 months ago. Before I even went on, he's like, let's set something up for me to come on and do an interview for you. And I'm like, I was not, I said, wow. I said, that would be amazing. And he goes, no, hearing that you're going after your dreams, you spent time in Iraq, and now, you know, you have these goals. He goes, that's inspiring to me. He's leaning in and he's looking me in the eye and he's like so sincere. And then I was like, well, I said, that would be amazing. And I said, I said, it took me a long time to get to where I was finally doing what I wanted to do. I said, I'm a recovering alcoholic. I got sober about 2 months after I got home from Iraq. Here's my sobriety date. And he looks at me and he's like, that's an amazing day. He goes, that you have an amazing story. And he goes, let's set up an interview. You know, he said, that's so inspiring. And I said, well, I got to meet you. I got hooked up with Pete Evick, and he's the one who I said I was on the side of the stage. He goes, you get a hold of Pete and you tell him that I will do an interview with you and Pete will set it up. And, you know, or if you're the average viewer, maybe you're thinking, well, maybe he's just maybe he would say that to anybody. And maybe he was. Maybe this interview will never happen. I have text first. Today's Monday the 15th. The show was 3 days ago. I didn't want to message Pete over the weekend and be like, hey, man. You know, they had more shows over the weekend, but I messaged him today and I said, thank you so much for the hookup. And you went so far above and beyond what I thought was going to happen. So I texted him that. And then I said, hey, if you're still up for doing an interview, I would love to schedule something with you. And after when he responds, if he responds, then I'm going to bring up what Bret said. And even if it doesn't happen, I'm not going to be disappointed. The fact that he treated me not like, here's another fan. you know, like really like to get out of here and get on my private plane and whatever. No, he talks to you like you are a peer, and he gives you so much like fucking respect, you know? So I hope the interview happens. You know, we'll see. But even if it doesn't, what I did that night, what I got that night, seeing him interacting with me, just, I've always been, Poison is one of my favorite bands of all time. And that night just cemented not only what I think of Poison, but what I think of Bret Michaels. The guy has a different energy and a different connection with his fans. You see it not only with people he meets afterwards in a meet and greet, and I'll acknowledge this, that most people who go to a meet and greet, they pay for it. And so, you know, you might be like, well, sure, he's going to be that way. He seems to be that way all the time. Even the people in the front rows of his shows, he's constantly up there slapping hands and shaking hands and smiling. So anyway, I just I've met in my life, and not during this channel, but before this channel, I met a number of rock stars. I was always trying to meet them after shows or before shows or whatever. And I met a lot of really nice people. But Bret Michaels was on a different level in how he talked to you and how he treated you. So, now, I did say in this, like, probably in the thumbnail, that he was the anti-Sebastian Bach. If you saw my recent video on the girl Kat, who asked Sebastian Bach for a hug and got shot down and treated like shit for asking for a hug, and then gets booted out of the show and gets called a fucking bitch. Again, I'll acknowledge, and she acknowledged, she flipped him off at the show. But seeing Bret Michaels hug everybody in that fucking meet and greet line, even the big dudes and the drunk dudes and everybody, I can't imagine Bret Michaels not standing up and saying, give me a fucking hug. And that's what he would say, come in here. He would say, come in here, smile and give him a big hug. And everybody that he treats that way he's going to have a fan for life. He understands that. Like everybody that he interacts with like that is always going to go to his concert, is always going to buy whatever he puts out, Poison or Bret Michaels stuff. They're always going to support him because he makes you feel like he mattered. And Sebastian Bach, I'm not saying that he's not that way with fans. I'm sure I've had interactions with Sebastian Bach. I've met Sebastian Bach, and he was very nice. But you can also see how on the right day or the right time, he could treat you like shit. He treated that girl like shit. All he had to do was give her a 2-second hug, and none of that shit ends up on TMZ or on the Hair Metal Guru saying Sebastian Bach has lost it. So, I hope that I treat people the same way that Bret Michaels does. And to still be able to do that, Charlie is down here. You know, you're being very naughty. To still be able to do that way and have that genuine affection for your fans after 40 fucking years is damn inspirational. It inspires me to want to be a better person. Holy shit. So I think everybody could take a cue from Bret Michaels, how you are on stage and how you are with your fans. Because no wonder he has people who are so loyal to him, because he treats them like they're not just a fan, but like they really matter to him. And seeing the difference between Bret Michaels and what Sebastian Bach did a mere week or 10 days before I saw Bret Michaels, it just showed me how far apart two people can be and how they treat somebody who is a fan of what they do. So, thank you again to Stevie Rachelle for going out of your way. You did not have to do that, to get me hooked up with Pete Evick, and for doing, and Pete Evick even said, and hopefully it's okay that I say this, he said Stevie was really, really wanted to make sure that you had a good time. So I can damn near get emotional thinking about it. Like, here's Stevie Rachelle is in one of my favorite bands, Tuff, and now he's going out of his way to make sure I have fun at a concert that he has nothing to do with. So thank you to Stevie Rachelle for getting me hooked up with Pete Evick. Pete Evick, thank you so much for going out of your way Friday, September 12th at a Bret Michaels show to make sure somebody that you had, maybe you had heard of my channel, but somebody you had never met, making sure that I had an unbelievable time, and my friends and my friend Chantel for her 50th birthday, giving us a spot to watch the concert on the side of the stage. We were the only fans up there, meeting us, shaking our hands, telling me that you were a fan of the channel, that you'd like to come on the channel, and then making sure we got to meet Bret afterwards. And then Bret Michaels, thank you for being an example of what every rock star and every fucking person should aspire to be: genuine and thankful and showing gratitude for the people who gave you the life that you have. You inspired, you make me want to be a better person. I'm sure you do that to a lot of people. Thank you for your time at the end of that concert. It was amazing. I hope we get a chance to do an interview. Even if we don't, what you did was way more than I ever thought I would get. So thank you. So, hey, if you made it through this far in the video, let me know if you've had any interactions with the Poison guys, or especially Bret Michaels. Maybe you can confirm what I'm saying. Maybe you have a different story. I doubt it, but maybe there are some out there. Let me know if you've had any interactions with Bret Michaels. And hey, like, subscribe, what the hell, ring the bell, and whatever you can do to support the channel. Truly, I appreciate you being here. And man, just an amazing night the other night. It was so awesome. So thank you for watching this video. Hey, until the next time, until the next video comes up, my name is Anthony. They call me the Guru. Take care of yourselves.